Hello again. Hey, you know what? We need to start another assignment. So let me get my clay out. Again, you should always keep this extra clay wrapped up super, super snug. And with this, you may need only a piece of clay about that big. Okay, we're not going to, this beginning of it's going to be kind of small. You have experience making the first part of this. And we are going to make a coil. It's a traditional way to make a piece of pottery. It's a coil pot, and I'll show you a sample or two in a moment where we're going. But if you want to compare that to a stapler, that might be the size of maybe 3 golf balls all put together. Okay, and if you have to scrunch that bag or tear that clay off the chunk of clay, remember, if you have 2 pieces of clay, you just want to really slap them together really hard, like this. Really hard, so you don't make any air bubbles on the inside. And if you have any lines like that little line right there, always try to blend those together so they don't wind up being cracks later on that want to separate. Then again, I'm always going off camera. I have my water little bucket right there, just to make sure the hands stay nice and moist. So I'm giving it a good squish, good squish, and I'm rotating it around so it really becomes one piece of clay. And again, I know you've seen wedging before, but what that is kind of pushing down on the clay. I'll do it with this hand. Pushing down on the clay and in, just a little bit, and then rolling it back. What that does, it kind of makes the clay kind of go around and become like one. It kind of mixes. Oh, it gets all wrapped up and around. Just a little push and bring it back, and a little push and bring it back, and a little push. And again, it's kind of like rotating it, and I'm giving it a good squeeze with all my fingers, not just my fingertips. Okay, so once it feels like it's kind of nice one piece of clay, again, I'm going to my water. Okay, so you don't want to let the clay dry out. Now I'm going to pat it into a ball. It does not have to be a perfect ball, just something kind of close. And again, that might be the size of a tennis ball. Mine's a little bit smaller than a tennis ball. But a tennis ball would be an okay kind of reference to go by. This little piece of paper is going to come in handy in a second, so you'll see what that's about. Now, a pinch pot, we're going to make another pinch pot, but it's going to have a different shape to it as a base for a different kind of pot. So I'm going to, again, put my thumb right in the middle and kind of rotate it. Now I'm going to pinch and rotate, pinch and rotate. This time, now remember, here's that chicken that I showed you a while ago. We've got the inside to be nice and round, and the top side, and the top side to be nice and round like a dome. This time we're going to keep it nice and flat on the bottom, and the walls are going to come straight up, kind of like this little water bucket. It's flat on the bottom, and these walls essentially go straight up. That's the idea this time. So now when we start to make our pinch pot, we want the thickness to be, it's going to wind up being about as thick as our pinky finger. If you're a teeny tiny little person, maybe your thumb. That's okay too. Now, as soon as I can, I will put both thumbs into my pinch pot. Never put your fingers inside there because it'll stretch the clay out too soon. I'm going to change my angle here a little bit. There we go. So only your fingers. And I'm kind of just rotating and pinching a little bit at a time. I can barely see a few little cracks developing. Get that water. Remember you saw that film on Maria, how she made her pottery, a handmade pottery, and she was always going over the rim with some water. It really helps keep the clay in good shape. Now, I'm going to go pat, pat, pat like that a little bit to make the base kind of flat. Okay, I'm even going to do it a little bit more because we do need this base to be just as kind of wide as the rest of the pot. So now I'm starting to pinch this pot, but I'm trying to make sure that the walls stay straight up and down. Okay, I can even do this. I'm going to give it a little squeeze. A little squeeze, 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 squeeze. So these walls, you do not want them to open up. You need them to stay straight up and down because we're going to apply more things on top here. And again, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to make sure the thickness of the clay stays pretty consistent all the way around. How wide this should be, you can see how wide it is against my hand. Most of you have a cell phone or something very much like it, and the width of these would be about as wide as a cell phone. A touch wider is okay, but don't start going way out there. Okay, don't make it skinny like that. You won't have a chance to do the other parts. But make it about as wide as your cell phone. And as far as how tall it is, it should be just 2 or 3 fingers tall. Okay, right in there somewhere is a good way to think of it. And again, this time with my thumbs, I'm going to push down out here at the outer edge of the base. And what that does, it helps flatten the base so the bottom stays nice and flat. Also, with my outside fingers, I'm going to be pushing in just a little bit. You can't even see it happening, but it helps keep these walls going straight up and down. Now, a lot of you are, I see tiny little cracks. If your clay is getting on the dry side, you're going to get those cracks happening really fast. Now, don't let the walls of this bend in and out. Keep it, remember that, keep it like a nice, hold it like a brand new baby. Don't let it bend and get out of shape. Right now, I'm just kind of smoothing out the bottom. You can do with your finger, making sure that your hand is under here. Excuse me, supporting it. Okay, now here's the deal. With the rim, you can see that that's pretty level. Okay, but I'm going to show you a technique. If your rim has lots of little lumps and bumps, check this out. And this is what this paper is for. This paper is so it'll slide easily on a surface. Without that, it gets kind of sticky. And this piece of paper actually can be really small, just barely big enough to kind of hold it. That's easier, then it won't get in the way. Now, if you take a paper clip, check this out. You have to hold that paper clip nice and kind of sturdy out here toward the end, like that. And I'm going to pierce it all the way through. Boom. That's going all the way through. Then I'm going to hold this paper clip really steady, very stiff in my hand. And with my other hand, I'm going to rotate. And if your rim is kind of wonky, if it's wavy and it's just not very regular, you can do this. Now, this hand has to stay perfectly still, and I'm pinching that paper clip really hard so it doesn't move. And hopefully, it's going to come right back where you started. This, if it's still a nice clay, let's put it right back in your bag. Okay, I won't just because of the video. Now, don't play with this much. That nice flat surface right there is actually what you want for the next part of it. So all I'm doing here is just kind of touching up the corner where the paper clip kind of left a sharp edge. That's all. Anytime you push on the inside, you should have support on the outside. Anytime you push on the outside, you should have support on the inside. Okay, you don't want to let this go in and out. Now, this should be about the size of a drinking glass, a tall glass or plastic drinking glass. Remember, it's about the size of a cell phone, how wide it is, roughly. Mine is just barely bigger than that. And if you haven't been told yet, something I forgot to tell you, clay shrinks. By the time this clay gets fired, it shrinks 15 to 20%. So this is even going to be a little bit smaller. And here's where we're going with this. This isn't exactly what you're going to make, but we're going to be building using coils and using designs inside coils. Okay, so we're going to build it on top of this. But it's good to have a base for this kind of coil construction. All right, again, this should rest at least overnight under a plastic bag, a thick plastic bag. Best to have it on a book, on something sturdy and flat. And I will find one of those things. And first night, I'm not going to sprinkle any water in here. But the first night, I just put it's okay to have the paper down here too. Just going to put it right in there. Don't squish this, but I'm just going to wrap it right under there, and it can rest overnight just like that. You need this to firm up a little bit. If you started to build coils right on top of that, this clay is too soft and it'll kind of lose its shape. So that's all you can do for the first day. Then it's a matter of just kind of letting it firm up overnight, and then we will go back to the next part of it in the next video. Cool. Thanks. Bye.